Welcome back. We're in Sandton today, Woodmead actually, just north of Johannesburg, and this is the venue for the latest in the series of New Age business briefings brought to you by the SABC and sponsored by Transnet. And today we're taking a look at job scams and tender scams. We've got a panel here that have been sharing the kinds of things that they're seeing. Essentially, job scams, you've got people out there who say, I can get you a job at Transnet or Eskom or another company, and all you have to do is pay me the small fee. Once you get that invitation for a small fee, chances are it's a scam. Be careful, be warned. And then the procurement side, these tenders, all manner of techniques are being deployed. So be careful about sharing your information. Be careful about getting requests from senior executives in their personal capacities at companies. But we're going to explore a little bit more. We've got an audience here that are going to help us with questions as well. And we'd like you to be part of that conversation at Morning Live SABC or hashtag TNA BizBrief. And that biz is spelled B-I-Z. All right, so gentlemen, the moment you get asked for money, that's a good idea to realize that this is problematic. There are certain protocols, as you were saying, that companies normally follow. But if you don't know those protocols, what's the best way to check whether something is legit in terms of a job scam, for example?
I think for starters, yes, once they talk in money, is the first alert. You must worry and start trying to, we'll assist you as Transnet. We're saying we have our own hotline. We call it Tip-Offs Anonymous. If you call that hotline number just to check, because we have a suspicion, the number is 0800 003 056. 0800 003 056. That's the Transnet hotline, Tip-Offs Anonymous. If you also maybe don't have that one, we have another alternative number, an email address. You can just check at transnet@tipoffs.com. Transnet@tipoffs.com. Or you can even make it even easier because we are in partnership with the South African Police Services. You can call the nearest police station to alert them about this person. I think it'll be easier before you can engage the person, keep him busy or her busy, just so that you delay whilst you're talking to the right authorities like Tip-Offs Anonymous or the police who will assist you in terms of nabbing it while it's still very fresh.
Okay. Major General, I guess, and one of the things I'm starting to notice and see is that these scammers play psychological games, and it's really about trying to get your confidence and your trust, and then they hit you.
That's correct. But I think just to take one step back, the minute these job adverts are not placed in newspapers,
right,
you'll find that they go to the vulnerable communities and they'll have a meeting in one of these community center halls where the notion of certain recruitment drives are now being sold to this level of community. And this essence is now carried over by the communities, and that's how it spread.
Right.
And people are then duped in this manner to go for these jobs. Now, I would say, from advice from us as the police, is to say, don't just react. If you hear these things or if you get flyers, then the best thing is just to find out what is the office number of this department or this entity. And then phone that number. And a quick way to ascertain a number, telephone number, is to phone 1023 to ascertain what is the number of Eskom. And you'll get to the legitimate telephone number of Eskom, where you'll speak and inquire, are you guys busy with this drive for this type of recruitment or employment offers that are there? And I think, in a sense, we can then curb, to some extent, how these things are happening.
Right. What's the quickest way to check that something's not legitimate? I mean, I've often been a bit suspicious of things, and what I do is I look up the phone number of Transnet, Eskom, whoever it is, and phone reception and start asking for those people. And I find that often solves the problem straight away. What tips can you give us in terms of checking that this process that I'm in is legitimate?
Effectively, as Molatwane mentioned, you can contact Tipos and ask the question. But it is also logically looking at the documentation and the information they've asked you for. But it's also important also just to understand the basic principles of Transnet's procurement. We just had a recent one where they were looking for 7 Volkswagen Amaroks. 7 Volkswagen Amaroks would exceed 2 million rand. If Transnet had to go out for a tender like that, it would be an official open tender that is published on the National Treasury's e-tender portal. So that's your first warning sign. You will not receive an email for a quotation for something above 2 million rand. If it is below the 2 million rand, look at the contents, look at the body. Are they identifying senior officials in the organization? In the engagement process, does it seem not quite right in terms of how they want delivery, how they want to take delivery, where they want to meet, and how the actions happen? Transnet is currently putting in a contact list on our website, which identifies our operating divisions, where you can then, there's a telephone number and an email address, where if Transnet Freight Rail has requested a quote, you can then contact that person and then just verify if this quotation you have received is valid. So that will be basically aimed at our acquisition council secretaries who know and understand the transactions that operating division is handling at the moment.
And I would imagine as well, one of the clues is if you don't meet that person in person, chances are something is not okay. Yeah?
Right. Actually, I would say that's one part of it. You see, the success of this scam is because it's all done. It's not one-to-one. You don't meet a person. That's the first one. Second one is maybe what you also need to do. If it's a cell phone number, maybe try to get the landline. Yeah. Because most of the time they use the cell phone number. So use the landline. Make sure that there's an Eskom or Transnet specific phone number, like we said at the reception. But thirdly, we have already said Transnet or Eskom will use their website to advertise. Secondly, they will use normal newspapers. So if it's outside those bounds, be more extra cautious. Right. Because this one didn't follow official way in which we communicate, either on the tender or for recruitment. Our recruitment is online. You go into Eskom website itself and then apply in there. So if anything is outside that, you need to be more extra careful.
Major General, we were speaking a little bit earlier on, and I think one of the messages that are coming through for me as well, do not underestimate the level of sophistication in some of these scams. You were describing for us this Googling story. Just recount the story for me, where you think you're innocent, the specs that you put into.
Oh. Yeah. What I was referring to earlier was the government tender scam. Yeah. Now, somebody would call you unsuspectingly and say, we have got this, we are trying to procure a number of things. And we've identified you from our list of suppliers. And sometimes the person may even know that he or she has never registered even on the supplier database. But therefore, because there's money to be made here now. Yeah. And then say there's certain specs that we need to procure. You are one of 3 that we need to supply us with quotations. Then they would give you specific specifications for what they need. They say, if you can Google and see where you can get this. Knowing very well that this specific specifications, the minute you go onto Google, you will get to one supplier who sits somewhere in the country.
Come up on the top of the list.
Yes.
Wow.
And then and it's part of the ring. You call this company who would give you a price. You will take the price, you will quote. Your quote is then accepted. And you will then phone the government and they will say, deliver. Being an SMME, you can expect your money within 30 days. Within 15 days. Yeah. And after supply. And then you would deliver. But you're not delivering to the government department. The sophistication goes to the extent where they will say to you, We will meet around because this person, at the time you say you're ready for delivery, he will purport to be in a rush on his way, and you'll get a Mr. Ndoro, for instance, to meet you somewhere.
Wow.
Be it in the parking area or close to the government department, where we will sign for delivery. And we have plenty right across the country, because we are centralizing, especially this area of scams. And people then would come, and at the end of the day, they are waiting for payment because they have delivered. Now, that items that are being delivered are then sold off again. And they make their cash, and they are gone.
Wow.
It has gone to the point where a very big state department, government department, actually we had to come in because there were papers served on this government department, where they are now being, summons were issued because they are demanding payment. They have delivered a service to this department.
Right.
And it was found when we started investigating that this is all a scam. This government department never issued a tender. And I think people need to understand, when you speak about state tenders, anything above 500,000 must go out to tender from government perspective.
Right.
And if you go out on tender, there are tender briefings that are held. And in some instances, especially in the corporate sector, you buy the tender document. Somebody doesn't phone you to say, I'll email you the tender specs.
Right. Okay. Mr. Nkhabu, I know that after the break, we're going to swap you around with someone. So I don't know if there's one final thing that you'd like to share with us just before we go to the break, by way of warning and perhaps just pointing us in the right direction.
I think what I can warn the public out there too is this is very serious. It can cause family breakdowns. We've just received one, and I won't go into details, where you'll realize that the person thought he's got a good tender. They decided to go and resign to get a pension to go into this thing, and now that money is wiped off. It's bad news. That's all I want to say.
Wow.
So, greed is one thing, but really, this is very good. It's bad news.
All right. Okay. Mr.
As soon as they say you're going to pay, then it's a problem.
Wow. Okay, Mr. Nkhabu, Chief Audit Executive Eskom, thank you very much indeed for joining us and sharing those very important points with us. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to start taking a look at your emails, your Twitter messages, and also messages and questions from the floor here. Stay with us for that.